Just before we came on air, I spoke to Ray Barry from Wolverhampton, who represents Real Fathers for Justice. As we've heard, I discussed with Ray this issue that a lot of listeners raising, saying that this new situation is unfair to men, as in most cases, it's men who are the people who pay child maintenance. So I asked Ray Barry if he thought it was unfair.
I think we've got to be balanced about this. We are talking here about parents who can't agree arrangements between themselves, and I think everybody would agree that it's better to keep the state out of these things. And if parents can come to an agreement between themselves as to how much to pay, and perhaps there might be payments in kind as well. Clothes being provided, etc. Those kind of arrangements between parents are much the best. But I do think there's a case for saying that when parents don't agree, why should the taxpayer fund the arrangements for making those payments? So, in principle, I don't see an objection to saying that parents should be making a contribution towards the administrative costs for the child maintenance service to administer this scheme.
So the idea of it then, of parents, look, the state saying if you can't crack your heads together and come up with some sort of compromise between you, then we as the state will sort it, but you're going to have to pay for us sorting it. You think that's reasonable? It puts a bit of pressure on mum and dad if they've split up to come to an amicable agreement that doesn't involve the CMS.
I think so. As a general principle, I think that's sound. What I think is unfair in the implementation of this is that the vast majority of the burden, the vast majority of the administrative cost, falls on one of the parents. I think it should be shared equally between the two of them. If the two of them don't reach agreement, then the two of them should equally share the cost of the administration. But the way this is going to work is that it's the paying parent who shoulders the vast majority of the cost that has to be paid. And I think that's just quite unfair.
Sorry, Ray, I was going to say, we know as well, sadly, that some splits are not amicable, and in those circumstances, and where there isn't a financial agreement, I don't think it's beyond going too far to suggest that in some cases the person who might be looking to receive the child maintenance might even use as a tactic the threat that not only will you have to pay cash to me, but you'll also then have to lose another 20% on top through the child maintenance service. This could be a tactic used by a disgruntled partner to make their other half pay for the split up.
That's exactly what I fear, Adrian. It could kind of fall into one of two categories. One, it could just be vindictiveness. It could just be, as a way of getting my own back on you, I'm going to make you fork out a quite unnecessary administrative cost to the child maintenance service. Or the other, it could be some kind of almost unpleasant, underhand deal that's going on here, where the receiving parent is saying, look, I want 10%, I want an extra amount. I want you to pay me more than you're obliged to pay me. But it's an amount that's less than the 20% you would pay. So it can be used as a kind of blackmail. Pay me more than you're obliged to pay me. Otherwise, I'm going to dump you with this heavy administrative cost. And the only way you can avoid that is by giving me, as a backhander, more money than you're obliged to pay me. Neither of those scenarios are particularly attractive ones. The kind of underhand pressure of one parent upon another, either through vindictiveness or for financial gain for themselves.
There you go. That's Ray Barry from Wolverhampton, from Real Fathers for Justice.